Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Well, today's video, we're going to be doing what you might call industrial track drain grate video number 2. That's a mouthful to try to say. About 6 or 8 months ago, I did the same project, if you remember. I made a bunch of track drain grates for a concrete batch plant. I had my buddy John the Fabricator help me out on that. Both of us were welding at the same time, and that was a good project and a fun project to do. However, this concrete plant needs a few more feet of this, 80 more feet to be exact. And I want to focus more on this video on the machine, the settings, and the process I'm going to be using, and maybe some of the do's and don'ts you might want to look out for if you're doing a big fabrication job that requires a lot of heat input, such as this one we're going to be doing here today. I've got the material right here in front of me, so let's get started on today's video. Alright, you can see my welding table right here. I already welded a couple of these panels together, and you can see it created just a lot of spatter and a big mess. And now I was able to get that cleaned off. I've used a really heavy piece of material right here and use it as a scraper kind of, and I was able to get everything off of there. I got this new product from CRC. This is their line of weld aid. It is called Weld Clean 350 Anti-Spatter. I want to give this stuff a try. You can see I put a nice little coat on there, and we'll see how this fares at the end of the video here. We're going to be operating off the HTP ProPulse 300 right here. This is a 300 amps of super power. You can see that I've got this thing fired up. You can't really see the screen very well. Sorry about that. I just got a little bit of a light issue. But I scrolled over to the program at 45,000, so we are operating off of 7525 there. Gas. I've cranked up the volts to +0.5, and I'm going to start the wire feed at about 350 inches a minute. Like I mentioned, we are using 45,000 dual shield flux core right here. I'm just going to crank up the 7525. This is 75% argon, 25% CO2. I'm going to be running it right at about 50 CFH right there. All right, so just like anything else, as you're building a lot of multi pieces of stuff right here like I've been doing, you learn after every single one, and usually when you get down to the very last one, when you've got it all figured out, it's all over. But you might have saw right there that I actually put a little space between there. I didn't butt the two 2-inch square tubes right up against the 5/8 bar stock there. I left about 1/8 of an inch. And that is only because I learned the hard way, and once I butted it together on the earlier ones, it pinched down a little bit in the center, and it took a hammer, a sledgehammer, to get those things in there, so I gave myself a little bit of a gap to go ahead and allow those things to fit in there pretty good, and you can see that's what's going on here. Another thing, too, I want to mention, you might want to see me using this a speed square for plumbing and square and everything on every single one of them. If you don't do that, it gets out of square really easy. Once I got everything all tacked into place right here, I'm just going to go ahead and hit that both sides of the either end of the flat bar stock right here and lock everything in and be sure everything is right where it needs to be. I'm going to flip this thing up on end right here, and you got to remember these things weigh a little over 200 pounds a piece. Kind of heavy duty. Sorry for the bright flash right here. It puts out quite a flash. Once I got everything flipped up on end, you can see that I'm going ahead and I'm welding these things all the way around. And I counted up, I think there was 3,200 welds complete for all of these rails, and you can see that I've got my fume extractor here, my Century Air fume extractor here. It works out really good. Dual shield flux core puts out a tremendous amount of smoke, and you can see that that thing sucks it up pretty good. And, just moving along and just kind of moving that along with me as I go, and it worked out pretty good. So I'm moving on down the line right here. I've already got several of these things complete. And then one of the things that I want to mention here, too, is, these things, well, I had these ones cut from my metal supply store since I needed so much of them. But when they cut them, what they do is it provides a real sharp edge on the sides that they cut. So it's nice to take a flap disc and go around there and trim that up and smooth those edges out, not for your safety, but for whoever else might be handling these things. So they're not razor blade sharp anyway. All right, so I'm just repeating the process and just moving along right here, and you can see it, I'm squaring and plumbing. I'm just using these little 2x4 blocks. It's actually not 2x4. I think they're 2.5 inches wide. That's the spacing that I'm using between here. And just moving right along. One thing, too, I want to mention is, just like you're doing wrought iron fencing, when you get to the very end of something like this, they never really work out. So what I like to do is I stop about a foot or so back and then space them out accordingly. You can pick up an inch really easy if you just, take up or take out 1/8 of an inch. Well, you can see that this is a tire stream process, so I'm just trying to be as comfortable as I possibly can. And rested my arm on top of the grate, or in some cases I even held that hose over the top of my shoulder. This is a 36 series gun, and it definitely is heavy. So we're moving on down. You can just see those grates are starting to take shape right here. I didn't want to bore you with all of the process. You can see I've moved along here quite a bit in the game. Moving these things around is kind of a chore. And there's kind of what it looks like. This is almost the last one. I have one more section to do. It is a 5-foot section. One of these needed to be a 45-foot section. So these are 10-foot sections, and this is the last 5-foot section. You can see me just cleaning the edges up and deburring those sharp edges. The only bummer is on the Pro Pulse 300, I went through so much wire that I ran out of 45 thousandths, and I had to back up and go to the HDP 2400. I've got it spooled with some 35 thousandths dual shield, and I didn't want to, because I didn't have any more 45, I thought I'd just finish it up. It's just one 5-foot section right here. It's not quite as powerful, and it not quite as hot, and it's a little bit slower, but nevertheless, it was only a 5-foot section that I needed to get complete right here. And I got to tell you, I was getting tired towards the end. This was a lot of welds that I've been doing over the course of a couple of days. And I'm just glad to finish this up right here. All right, so just you see I got the torch lead over my shoulder there. And I'm resting my arm over the top. Just trying to be as comfortable as I possibly can right down towards the end of the line right here. It has been a lot, but you know what? It's been fun. I enjoy doing this. It is kind of rewarding. It seems like a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. All right, so you can see that smoke's just blowing right out my garage door right there. I was using that box fan towards the end right here. The fume extractor worked really good, but I found myself keep having to drag the nozzle or the trunk of that all the way around, and it got to be a little slow, but we got it done. All right, so there it is. I just wiped off that spatter. That cleaned off really well, and just wiped everything down. There it is, the Weld Aid Weld Clean 350 anti-spatter. Worked out pretty good. It's available on Amazon. Check it out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you guys next week.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.